Good evening and welcome to the African Journalist on African Rising. For almost 3 years, no journalist in the world was granted an access to interview him, a man of few words and few appearances. But today, we break the silence. In the heart of Ouagadougou, behind the guarded walls, journalists meet this man, the president of Burkina Faso, His Excellency Ibrahim Traoré. Let's see what he had to say on matters about security of Burkinabe and Burkina Faso at large.
Some of your critics regularly bring up a statement you made, and this statement dates back to the very beginning of your time in power, when you said that if everything was done, 3 months would be enough to move towards the end of the war. And these critics now say that 3 years later, the war is still not completely over. Mr. President, this evening, how do you respond to them?
All right, thank you very much. And thank you all for coming to this interview. It's true that's what we would have wished for, but things did not turn out as we thought. And I say, everything is being done. So there are several approaches that need to be implemented in order to achieve this goal within that time frame. But not everything was implemented as we had hoped. First, adversity. So as soon as we came to power, we had hoped that we would be allowed to work quickly and make progress. Unfortunately, some people approached us and wanted us to go along with them because their goal was not for the war to end anytime soon. I'm talking about certain foreign forces that were present on our soil. We had heated debates with diplomats from elsewhere on the matter, but no one wanted us to move toward ending this war. We understood this through the messages. If people actually came to us and told us that we had to accept them supporting the terrorists while also supporting us, it means exactly what it sounds like. It's a war being deliberately maintained. So we quickly understood and we got rid of all the forces that were present here, whether French or American forces, and we realized that the real struggle would come afterward. The second thing was also we believed that we still had at least a minimum stock of weapons and ammunition. Today, I can tell you what I found, for example, in stock. There was just one supply line for all of Burkina Faso with less than 100,000 Kalashnikov rounds. And as for weapons, we barely had 100 of them. Simple ones. It was necessary to re-equip to strengthen the army in terms of personnel, weaponry, and everything else. So, if these prerequisites were met, the 3-month objective was indeed possible. But there was nothing. We were not prepared for war, neither in terms of equipment nor in terms of manpower.
Precisely, Mr. President, as you just said, when you took power, to put it bluntly, there were more men than ammunition in the Burkinabe army. And today, where do we stand with the armament program for that army? And then, what are the signs that it is gradually gaining strength?
Very well. As I said, I can't describe the whole situation as it was. It was catastrophic. And as I said, you can investigate. There may even be soldiers in this room who were on the front lines without weapons that existed in our army. So these were situations where we thought it was just, I wouldn't say bad faith, but an incomprehensible situation. For us, the weapons were there, and yet they refused to equip them. But when we were confronted with reality very quickly, we resolved first to try to arm the personnel who were present. And that's when all hell broke loose, because many powerful countries refused to sell us weapons. So we turned to those who were willing to sell us weapons. Very quickly we equipped ourselves, we recruited the VDP, and we were able to pay for everything we needed. We developed an equipment plan for a build-up in strength. And as you can see, for the past 2 years now, the equipment has started to arrive, it's still not finished, and more keeps coming in. Maybe in a few days you'll see even more new equipment being presented, which is mainly support equipment, because first, the infantry. We had to equip them so that every man could have a weapon issued to him. That was a big challenge. We've achieved it. We keep recruiting, as you can see. Every year, we recruit between 10,000 and 15,000 men. That's a considerable effort, because when we say adversity is present, the number of terrorists increases. Because the imperialists are recruiting a lot of mercenaries who come to Burkina Faso to fight. So we have to adapt to the situation. And now we have our third phase, which is no longer about buying, but about manufacturing ourselves. And we're also working on that. So that's what building up our strength means. We need to be well equipped, but also to create a defense industry. That's very important.
In a few months or a few years, we'll have our soldiers here using weapons made in Burkina.
Of course. We have the intellectual capacity, there are resources. All it took was to look for them, and there you go. We're working on it. You'll be surprised, for sure.
Mr. President, I must ask, can we truly win this ongoing war? Are we, in fact, going to ultimately win it?
We can only win it. What else would we do? Rest assured, we're not going anywhere, and we will win this war. I told you that the threat is constantly evolving, but we are adapting. And the strength of the Burkinabe army is that it is one of the most resilient armies in the world. The pressure that Burkina Faso is under, I don't think there is any other country on earth right now facing this kind of pressure. But we are holding on, we will fight, and we are constantly adapting to the threat. And we understand where the threat comes from, how it manifests itself. That's the most important thing. And right now, I can assure you that soon we will be talking about a black albino who will appear. And you'll see. Don't ask me what that means. I think you'll understand later. The war will end, and very soon.
Precisely, to win this war, as you just said, we need weapons and we also need men, especially determined men. Determination, as you know, is the major game changer. That's what makes the difference in any war. Right now, as we speak, what exactly is the morale of our troops on the ground?
You've really gotten to the heart of the problem. Human resources, determined men. It's not just about supplying equipment. We need determined men. And if you notice, we are in the process of building a quality army. And it's not uncommon that when it's judged that a unit leader or an element has failed in their mission, they are dismissed and prosecuted. This has happened several times, and it will continue this way. If you sign up to be a soldier, you must accomplish the mission because the mission is sacred to us. And another thing is that despite the pressure, despite the challenges, the men keep fighting and are very resilient. If today you catch a Burkinabe soldier and ask him, do you want other people to come fight in your place or come help you? They will never tell you that. They would rather die. That's where you can judge their morale. They are ready, always ready, despite the situation, no matter what battle we might lose. We will always hold the ground. That's what's very important for the soldier's mindset. So morale is at its highest. People never expected to have this level of equipment, but now they do. So they're giving it their all, and I can only congratulate and thank everyone who is fighting. It's very important.
So, Mr. President, in your speech, you talk about a war that takes different forms, that evolves. We keep asking ourselves this question. We wonder afterwards who is attacking.
Burkina Faso. It's not just terrorism. It's a war to seize our resources and prevent us from developing. I once explained this in a speech, I believe. I was saying that if we manage to properly exploit our subsoil resources to process what we are extracting here, what we are producing, there will be unemployment over there on their side. It's a battle. They plunder our resources in order to survive. So it's a war for independence. We must wage this war to be fully independent, to decide our own development, our own path. So that's what it's about right now.
Mr. President, as you just said, we're talking about the security and defense of Burkina Faso. Let's talk about your personal security. You just mentioned it a moment ago. The pressure is enormous. It's huge. The danger comes from everywhere. Mr. President, just in 2025, there have been several coup attempts that were foiled. Mr. President, do you ever feel afraid?
Thank you. I think that's the only strength I have. I'm not afraid. Because I trust all of you, that's the first thing. You have to trust the people, because it's the people who entrusted us with this mission. And I trust the people, that they will understand. And that's why we don't hesitate to stand before the people, to explain the situation to them and tell them what's going on. And that helps maintain a very good relationship. That's the first thing. The second thing, as I said, is that there was a mindset that needed to be developed within our own forces. That's very important. Right now, that mindset is there and people understand why they're fighting. If you look back a few years, many officers in the field didn't know why they were fighting. But if we know why we're fighting, who we're up against, and why there's this pressure, people understand better. And that's why we immediately created the Institute, the higher military school, so that we could train our own soldiers and instill in them what we want. Remember one thing, if you let your forces be trained by other powers, they put into their heads whatever they want. They indoctrinate them as they please, and it's easier to manipulate them. Here in Burkina, right now, that's actually what bothers many imperialist powers. They can't manage to infiltrate our army. All these units that have been created, all these men who are here, no one came from elsewhere to train them. We are built on our field experience, and we trained them ourselves. I personally took part in training some of these forces at the very beginning. So that's already a second strength. And the other strength is that if you have a mission, a goal for your country, you must not be afraid. If you are afraid, you hesitate. If you hesitate, you compromise. And once compromise sets in, you're done for.
Earlier, you listed a number of factors that make you feel reassured. I insist because history matters too. It's history that guides us. These imperialist forces, they are real. In 1961, they took out Patrice Lumumba in the DRC. In 1972, they took out Kwame Nkrumah in a different way. And then in 1987, they got rid of Thomas Sankara, always with internal enemies and sometimes with the complicity of certain neighbors. You know what they say, Mr. President? The first duty of a revolutionary is to stay alive in order to continue the struggle. Mr. President, can you please reassure all of these wonderful people, all of these dedicated men and women who are gathered here and elsewhere, who are truly beginning to hope that you will indeed stay alive and continue your important work?
They always manipulate from within. We are very well aware of that. And also, it is our duty to take part in our own security. It's not about saying today that I'm the head of state and I just entrust security to other people. No, everyone takes part. I myself take part. That's why I say, it's not just a matter for those who are close to me, it's a matter for the whole people. And security is not just a matter of detained men or whatever else you can imagine. It's a whole system. It's also about behaviors, ways of living. We have to avoid many things, mistakes that may have been made in the past. We have read a lot about everything that imperialism has destroyed, and we have learned many lessons. That's why we say we won't let things repeat themselves. We will anticipate, even if people interpret it however they want, we will anticipate. But that's because we have understood the message, the hope that exists. We will do everything to always stay ahead of imperialism's actions.
Mr. President, from the perspective of the journalist that I am, I feel that the AES countries are being encircled. When I look a bit at Côte d'Ivoire, there is a military camp in Odiene, near Mali and Burkina. Senegal is setting up units at the border with Mali, not to mention Benin, which also borders Burkina Faso and Niger. Mr. President, do you share this point of view? Do you see things this way?
I think that when you decide to make a revolution, you have to be prepared for this adversity. It's a logic that surrounds us. It's a logic that tries to bring us down. It's logical. As I say, it's a battle. They are fighting for their interests. And it's up to us, if we've decided to make the revolution, to do everything possible so that this encirclement is defeated. You see, in Africa, we're used to not having a strong army to begin with. There is no state if there isn't a strong army. But well, that was the system. As I once said to the elders, they came to flatter us. No, you shouldn't arm yourselves. Even recently, I think there was an interview where an American general said it again, that our countries don't need to be militarized. That's their view. We're like children. They're the ones who have to come, sit down, and provide security for us. And many countries are in this situation. They don't build an army. And when the situation arises, it's chaos. We, on the other hand, are building a strong army. That's why I said we fight in Burkina Faso and we train in Burkina Faso. That's very important. What was it like before? Every time, foreign forces, everyone would come to train your soldiers. They treated you as less than nothing. Today, many forces, foreigners, are now seeking to come and train with us. You wouldn't believe it. The world's greatest powers want to come and train with us, with our soldiers. But it's not just about training. They want to learn how we do things, how we operate, who trains us. But today, no one knows how the commandos are trained, how we train them, how we equip them. Why do we think that it's others who should come and train us? They haven't created anything. They just thought about it. We have brains too. So we need a powerful army to face adversity. They will keep surrounding us because there will always be leaders in Africa like that who will allow it. They have their hands tied. They always betray. They will always allow the imperialists to come to their countries to attack their own brothers. If you accept the revolution, you have to go forward with this concept. That's how it will be. So there's nothing we can do about it. We deal with it, but it's up to us to prepare ourselves so that the encirclement is nullified, so they can never achieve their goal. That's all. So we deal with it.
Very recently, ECOWAS held a forum of chiefs of defense staff of the Friends of Africa. Mali and Burkina Faso were not there, nor was Niger. We sense a lack of solidarity. You who are at the top of the state, what can you tell us about that?
Well, it's not a lack of solidarity. Keep in mind that it's a confederation, not a federation. In some respects, we do a lot of things together, at least in tandem, but in the charter, it is stated that countries can decide on their own relationships and what they can do. We can't tell a country not to collaborate with another country. No, we're not at that stage yet. We are in the process of consolidating the confederation in many areas, including development, defense, and diplomacy. And afterwards, we will move on to the confederation. These are steps. So Niger can take part in meetings. The confederation is not closed off. We are open. We interact with everyone. We are very Pan-Africanist. We are truly open to integration, to everything there is, but with principles.
The question I want to ask, forgive me, is not about defense or security, but about your relationship with us, the media. Mr. President, do you have a particular problem with the media, with us, the journalists? I say this because it feels like there has been a misunderstanding. I'm talking about the national media, not the international media, some of which have ended up in the trash for some time now. That's a fact. There is no national media. It seems like there was a misunderstanding at the beginning and that there's still a fog hanging over things. How do you analyze the situation, Mr. President?
You know I'm not a hypocrite. There was a misunderstanding, there was a fog at the beginning. But today I must say that I really commend the media for their professional work. We must avoid following along the work of imperialism. Of course, many among you were trained by them. That's it, you went to the white man's school, as we like to say. They're the ones who trained you in journalism. So I don't often blame you when people try to behave like them. But I speak so that people become aware that this is about our homeland. Look, this morning, for example, read the headlines in the newspapers in France. They might tell you that there was a mobilization to put pressure on the Prime Minister. They won't tell you that there was a march against the government or anything like that. But if it were in Burkina, you would say there was a march against the government. Do you understand?
The president says that the Burkinabes are vigilant and they are ready to protect their own country. But the question from the African journalism that we are asking ourselves is, are we ready to protect our own? Are we ready? The African countries, are they ready to stand firm and protect their own? This man has dedicated his life to make sure that Burkina Faso is free. Burkina Faso is great. Burkina Faso is a country of upright man. To Ibrahim Traoré, thank you for granting us a chance to have an interview with you. This was the African journalist on African Rising, Politics and Power. Let's meet you for another episode.